Environment Secretary made an announcement about live animal exports as his party's conference this week. He says they'll be restricted once we leave the EU. Campaigners have long argued it's a cruel trade, but it's perfectly legal, and the practice is particularly important to sheep farmers in the southeast. Bryony Williams has been investigating, and we should warn you, her report does contain scenes that you may find upsetting.
It's kind of a familiar theme protesting against, and it seems there are steps.
At the Conservative Party conference, Michael Gove, the Secretary of State for Food and Rural Affairs, says that Brexit can offer an opportunity. When the UK leaves the EU, government will take steps to control the export of live farm animals for slaughter. It comes after lobbying from MPs in Kent and Sussex, and it's something animal rights campaigners welcome.
These shocking images captured by protest groups show the reason why they want live animal exports. Sometimes
the fact is that the government could have made significant changes in the past, but they haven't had the political will to do so. But Brexit has certainly brought it much further up the agenda, and is now, we hope, going to improve the situation. We object to the extremely long journeys, which sometimes last for days when they're exported onto the continent as far as the other ends of the European Union.
The port of Ramsgate is the only port that regularly exports live animals. It's an important trade for the farming industry. UK exports of live cattle, sheep and pigs have tripled in value over the last 5 years to more than £21 million in 2016. From Great Britain to EU for the Farmers Union say any restrictions on export limits
we could be struggling to sell lambs, and this is an extra avenue. We do not need to be losing it. We restrict the competition so we can't make money out of our lambs. If we don't cease to be profitable, and then everything that we do, all this beautiful landscape that sheep by their nature maintain, will be lost.
There are already strict animal when transporting farms from the EU, being signed by Canada is not a animal export ban.
Is Michael Gove looking at this particular export?
So there's two sorts of animals going abroad. There are animals that are going for slaughter or further fattening, and the RSPCA would like to see those stopped, and then there are those that are going for breeding. Now, obviously if you're using your animal for breeding, you're going to take more care of it. And so we believe that it's the animals that are going for slaughter, where the welfare problems are, where the long journeys are, where the non-compliances are, and the RSPCA would like to see that really severely restricted.
Farmers already face an uncertain future when Britain leaves the EU. More red tape could damage their industry, but campaigners see more controls, welfare problems. The pictures on both sides are compelling.
Joining us now from Birmingham is Phil Stocker, who's Chief Executive of the National Sheep Association. I wonder if you could start by explaining, first of all, Mr. Stocker, why animals can't be slaughtered in this country and their carcasses exported?
Well, they can, and I mean, they are slaughtered in this country with the carcasses and joints being exported already. And if you looked at the figures over the last 15 years or so, there's been a big growth in the export of carcass and joints of meat. So they can be, but the live export trade is still a valuable part of our market. And for those farmers, particularly down in the southeast of England, you can really strongly argue that some of the destinations that the animals going over the channel take are closer than some of the journeys that they would take within the UK if they were transported to some of the abattoirs here within our mainland. So, you know, if it's done properly, and if it's done within the bounds of the regulation, which assures good welfare, then we believe it's a trade that should continue.
But would you agree there are weaknesses in the current system? I've got examples here: drivers not trained properly, inspections not carried out. The EU itself has agreed that there are severe animal welfare problems because of the lack of enforcement of those rules designed to protect the animals.
Absolutely, and I would agree with that very much. I mean, any cases that we've been notified of or seen where animal welfare is poor. It's been through someone flouting EU regulations. So what we've been all calling for, and to be honest, we're calling for this in the same way that many animal welfare campaigners have been for some time. We would like to see better enforcement of those regulations across all EU member states.
The trouble is that review was carried out in 2011. Here we are in 2017, and no one seems to think things have improved. The system doesn't seem to be working.
Absolutely, and of course once animals leave these shores, we have little control over how member states enforce those regulations. And I was quite interested to hear what Michael Gove announced at the Conservative Party conference about. There's a slight change of language actually about restricting exports. I mean, we've heard language over recent months, I guess, where people have been making claims that live exports should be banned, or maybe transport of animals across the water should be banned, or journey limits of over 8 hours should be banned. But now a comment that journeys should be restricted is something that we as an organisation would be prepared to explore. We, for some time, because of a lack of enforcement of regulations in other EU states, have been suggesting that the assuring routes, so that we've got really clearly known destinations and start points, and we can, using all sorts of modern technology, we can track those journeys. There's no reason why we couldn't open some of these routes up to be more transparent and assure them, so that we can assure the enforcement of the regulation.
Okay, Phil Stocker, for now, thank you very much. Quinn Kinley, Michael Gove wasn't very clear. He talked about restrictions, but he didn't really outline what they might be or promise that they would be put into place once we leave the EU.
No, well, I'm sort of quite reassured by what Mr. Stocker said there. He seems to be on the same sort of page, worried about animal welfare, just as I am. I mean, the use of Ramsgate, frankly, is a national shame on my constituency. It's the only port that's now being used for this cross-border trade. I know he said that there's Kent and Sussex farms going through Ramsgate. That's not what I've seen. These are often sheep and lambs that have come from Cumbria, already going through long distances to even get to Ramsgate, then going on a rickety old boat that frankly is not fit for purpose, over to the Channel ports the other side, and then for onward journey. Yeah, I'm pushing Michael Gove, as many of my colleagues are. The 8-hour restriction, I think, would be very, very useful. I certainly want this to stop out of Ramsgate.
And I know Vince Maple agrees with you on this issue, but as you just heard the argument made by Phil Stocker, if actually animals can't be exported from this country, they face longer journeys from the southeast up to abattoirs in other parts of the country. Is the answer more abattoirs? Or you could also argue if more ports exported, they wouldn't have to travel so far to get to Ramsgate.
I mean, I recognise entirely the situation that Craig finds himself in. That community, Ramsgate has been kind of the focus for this. And it's an issue which, people are really passionate about. Certainly since June, when we had the general election, I received more emails as a candidate than any other issue. So we need to have this debate. There isn't a simple solution. I accept the argument that actually the journey from a Kent farm to be shorter than a Kent farm to perhaps Scotland.
Yeah.
So I think we just need to recognise that.
Do we need more abattoirs? Because I think that's something that you've suggested.
Yes, of course. I mean,
people don't like them though, do they?
Coming back to the EU issue, we had these sort of super abattoirs were created because the rules were so complicated. I mean, the mantra is we need meat on the hook and not on the hoof for as long as it possibly can. I mean, how is it we can get perfectly good New Zealand lamb going halfway across the globe, and yet we still are doing this rather disgusting trade?
Now, you introduced a private members bill on this, trying to give ports the ability, like Ramsgate, to stop the trade, which, as we know, Ramsgate's been unable to do. It didn't get very far in Parliament, but you've got you're involved with another bill that's going to get a reading.
That's right. Well, I want to push
mine
again, because when the last Parliament stopped, all those private members' bills in train come to a stop and have to be restarted. So how will this one be
different, and will it succeed?
Well, what Theresa Villiers is putting one forwards, which is very similar. It's actually rather more robust than mine. It is a pure blanket ban on live animal exports for slaughter abroad, with a little tweak for Northern and Southern Ireland, because, realistically, going from Kent to Sussex is no different from going to Northern Ireland to Southern.
And in brief, Vince Maple, this is something that Brexit, I know you weren't in favour of it, could be good news for people who believe, like you do, that exports should be restricted.
Yeah, I think since there are some things as a fault in this position, but things like this which actually I positively welcome as a step forward. I wish we weren't in this position, but we are, and actually we should take the small benefits we can.
The silver lining. Lovely. Now it's time for some of the other news.